Welcome back to the BrewBat run through. We are now going to have a look at adding a recipe. So just to show you, we've been in the settings and set our water and equipment. We are now going to add a recipe. Access that from this section here. Okay. I would suggest, have a look at the water profile add. That's probably the most useful one, but the equipment's very handy too. Get that added, and setting up your new recipe, you'll have a much better idea of what's going on in terms of your volume additions, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, give that a go. So we're going to make a Belgian Pale today. Oops, Belgian Pale. Belgian Pale. Okay, we're going to add a. You've got various options here. The only thing really you need to set are the brew date and the name. This will be preset from the equipment in your profile. You can actually change or you can deselect this to have a blank equipment profile, and you can select that in the recipe too. So once you're happy, click on Add Recipe, and it will take you to the recipe page. All right. It will remember where you were before, so but if you haven't been on it, you'll end up on the summary page. You've got these tabs here. They'll show up on mobile at the bottom, so slightly different. And you've got these tabs here where you can close a recipe. It'll take you back to this list here, My Recipes. You can duplicate one of your recipes or any public recipe. You can also delete recipe. This is the edit recipe page. This is where you'll see all this. You can go to a brew sheet once you set up, and you'll have a few selections there to help you on your brew day. Alright, so for the time being though, we're just going to have a look at the summary page, mash, ingredients and volumes. We'll look at the brew sheet in another video. Okay, so just moving on, we've got the summary section here, and the top of that section you'll see pretty much what you saw in the new recipe form. Alright, we've added different type, boil time, efficiency, got your brew date there. Okay, you can set a time if you want to. It's most importantly just keeping a record, and also for your yeast viability. That's what it's used for. Change your size here, and then you can also scale recipe. If you're going to do it, it will also scale all of the ingredients. So if you've got, if you a double batch size, it will just double all the amounts of all the ingredients. So pretty handy. Next thing we're going to do though is we're going to select a style. So I'm just going to click on this menu here, this button, choose recipe style, style profile section. You'll find this is quite common throughout the website. I'm going to search for Belgian Blonde. This is the style of beer I'm making. All right. So if you click that, you'll find these red lines here now are going to tell you the rough style parameters. And once you start adding ingredients, these round markers here will be along these continuums somewhere. All right. A few other things you can do on these tables: you can search, you can sort. If there's an upward triangle here, you can change the guides, so you can filter the table by various guides. It defaults to BJCP beer because I think that's the most common one most people use. You've got various types here, so yeah, you can also increase the number of items displayed on the page and cycle through the pages here. So here you've got some equipment information, the name of the equipment. You can tweak various parameters here. You can also add equipment as we did in the recipe. If you wish to scale the recipe, what that will do is if you're using larger or smaller equipment, it will decrease or increase the batch size as well as the ingredients. Okay. Right, further down we've got notes here. You can add rich text notes, so lists, all that kind of stuff. Here we've got carbonation. I'm not going to go through that now, as I think we talk over it in the brew sheet video. So what we're going to do next is we're going to add a mash profile. So you've got your steps here which you can edit. You've got a table here that shows the mash profile. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just choose one of these. You can search and sort and display more if you wish. I'm going to choose this Pills and Stat Mash because I think that shows the setup quite nicely. So you've got graph here with all your mash steps. Okay, see there's quite a few points here. What that's displaying is the temperature, the step time and the ramp time. So you've got the ramp time, which is this diagonal line here. You've got the step time here, ramp time, step time. So just how long it takes and the overall time for the mash. Right, that's all done. So now we're going to go to the fermentables section, and I'm going to add in order. I'm going to add the fermentables, the water, which is down here, and I'm going to add hops, and I'm going to sort out the water with some misc additions, so like acids and salts, and I'm going to go add my yeast. Okay, so on this table should be a bit more familiar now after you've seen the equipment one. You can filter the region here, which is a slightly separate thing from the table, so I just wanted to give users the ability to sort by the region of the fermentables. So I'm going to use some Belgian malts. I'm going to choose an oat. I'm going to choose a Pilsen malt, and I'm just going to show you this. I won't use it. Oh, wrong keyboard. I'm going to click on chocolate there. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to add, you see these are all pale now, and this is quite pale, this colour. If I change the colour, I'm just going to do that so it doesn't change around. If I change the colour of the amount of the items, oops, you'll find that the colour of the rose changes. That hasn't changed much because we haven't added a lot of it, and it's not contributing a lot of colour. Now you can see that's an orange colour, and that's changed the overall colour profile. If I add, let's say, 1/4 of a kilo of the chocolate malt, you can see that changes quite significantly. Let's just change that to 0.5. Yeah, so that's just changed the overall colour of the recipe. We're not going to use that today though, so but yeah, have a play around with that. We've got a few items here to help you. This is the fermentability of the wort. Anything over 30 is fine. You've got your total grain amount here. This is rounded up to 1 decimal place, so that's what it's showing, 5.3. Your target water to grain ratio is here. Now that's set in your equipment settings and your user settings page. What it will do is it will determine how much water we add in the next step. Okay, so this is why we're adding the fermentables first. So if I go down to the water here and click add mash water, you can choose between reverse osmosis, distilled and user water. You can also mix and match. You can add a bit of one and the other if you wish to blend your local water and some distilled or reverse osmosis water. I'm going to click OK there, and you'll see it adds 21 litres. So I think there's a dead space in my mash tun. So it's basically more or less 5 times 4 with a little bit added on for extra. Just yeah, as the dead space won't count towards that. I'm going to add some sparge water as well, and that will also be calculated to determine to give you the correct amount of water that reaches your target volume. Okay, so if I go over to the volume section, you'll see these match up. These match up. All right. So here we've got a very brief overview of the additions and the target batch volume and the waste. This big green bar is your target volume. This is all the wastage on top of that. As you can see, these are things determined in our equipment profile. Here's your sparge water, and here's your volume additions. Sparge and top up water or liquoring back, which is what you add at the end of the boil, will also show up here. It'll be blue as well, and the reason why is that we want it to show up on here as a sort of slightly as the same colour as an addition. So here we just got the blue colour is the overall volume of the wort, so it decreases here, increases here, decreases a bit here, decreases a bit here when you've got this various losses. So this is left to right, the brewing process. You've got, you start off with the grain loss, then have your sparge addition, you have your boil and cooling loss, you'll have your hops here as well when you add them. You have your kettle loss, you have your FV loss, and then finally out of the SV, FE, you've got your final batch size after all the losses and additions. Alright, so these should match up. If they don't match up and you've been recording your volumes correctly, there's some of these are not correct, so you've mismeasured somewhere, absorption, loss, or additions. So anyway, that's hopefully something quite useful. Here we've got top up needed, so that's just how much you need to achieve your final batch size. You've got an overspill here, which is just the how much excess space you have in the mash tun. If you're a little bit short, it will show up as red and positive. Sorry, if you're a bit over, it will show up as red and positive. If you're under, then this is what you've got. And you've got an estimated packaging volume here. Right, so going back to here, now we're going to add our hops. I am going to choose some European hops. I'm just going to go down the easy route. I'm going to choose some bittering and aroma hops. Alright, so I'm going to choose 3 of these so I can show you a little bit about how this works. I've got high alpha here, so I'm going to choose those for my bittering hops. Okay, and I'm just going to add 25 grams of each to keep life simple. Alright, so that's a bit high on the IBUs, so I'm going to reduce this to 0. Alright, so that will decrease the IBUs. Okay, and I'm going to change this to whirlpool, and you'll note that the whirlpool temperature appears on the chart here, as well as the whirlpool temperature and time. Okay, so we've got 20 minutes or so, let's say, at 85. Okay, you'll notice the IBUs change accordingly. Alright, so we do have whirlpool contributions. This should be added onto this actually, but that's just another job I need to do, one of many. Okay, so now we've added the hops. Alright, let's just close this. Okay, these little annoying pop-ups again, that shouldn't be happening. Just close, just refresh. I'll either get rid of it or fix it, one or the other. Okay, so we've got our hops and we've got our fermentables. If we go back to the summary here now, we'll see we've got actually some of these dots are along the sliders. If you wish, you can actually edit these. You can change the bitterness. What that'll do is it'll adjust the bittering hops. So anything, I think, under 6 minutes, before 6 minutes, before the end of the boil, it will adjust those. So I'm just going to drop that down to 30. If I go back to the ingredients, and you'll see 30 IBUs, more or less. And we've decreased that amount to 20.5 grams. So that fits in with our style. We probably need to up the fermentables as well if we're just going to use these. So I'm just going to go back here. I'm going to unlock again, and I'm going to increase that initial gravity to 1062. Alright, so hopefully we'll have a larger amount of grains, and that will that will be adjusted. So we've got our recipe is hopefully fixed now. Right, next thing to do is to adjust the mash pH and water profile. So I'm going to add a target water to our water array here. Okay, so you can do various things. You can search through them, you can sort them by ions. You can also filter by various types. We've got location, so a country, style, dark, hoppy, pale, NEPA. We've got source, which is the RO and the distilled water. For the time being though, I'm happy with location, and we're going to choose Antwerp as our location, as it's been Belgium. So I'm going to add that to the target water, and see that's up here, and you'll also see in a second the chart will update. Okay, so I'm going to ignore these ions for target. Generally tend to ignore. Might think about the magnesium a little bit, but it's not that important. The main thing are these two ions here, the sulfate and the chloride. So I'm just going to tweak the recipe. I'm going to add some salts, and I'm going to add some acids as well. Here we've got the pH, the target pH. So you can actually change the target pH. You've got a little suggestion here where with the various sections. Have a play around with that if you want. Just going to close that now, though, and we're just going to add some lactic acid, and some salts. So just going to do a search. Oops. There we go, lactic acid. That's not, no, lactic. Okay, so I'm just going to select that. Epsom salt, I'm going to select that. Calcium chloride. So we've got 3 selected there. Just click that button and they'll be added right away. I know what I need to add. Unfortunately, we don't have any automation here, so you just need to tweak it until the charts work out. I think we're about 8 mil here, 5.5 here grams, and I think we were 1 gram here. So see, that's a little bit high, so I'm just going to add. It's not that much, but anywhere around 5.3, 5.4, 5.2 is fine. So I'm just going to do that. Okay. Oh, so as you're adding a little bit more grains, I think it will tweak things a bit. So there we go, 10 mil lactic acid. That's worked out. So I'm just going to have a look at the sulfate and the chloride ions now. You see that match up. Sulfate's at 84, target, and at 82, actual predicted. Here we've got 57, we've got 56.7 here, so that's good. That fits our target profile. So all good now. Finally, all that's left for us to do is to sort out the yeast. Alright, so we need 250 billion cells for the yeast to do its magic. If you change the fermentables, it will increase or decrease that because we have a pitching rate that works on the strength of the wort. So the pitching rate is at million cells per milliliter per Plato, degree Plato. It's a standard one. Don't really have to remember all of that. All you have to do is say, well, actually, most beers you're doing around 0.75. If you want, though, you can play around with pitching rates. You can underpitch, overpitch. You can change the style here. Lager will increase that or decrease that. But anyway, that's fine. We're just going to leave it for that for the moment. So I'm going to put some liquid yeast in, and I'll just show you very briefly the starter, yeast starter. Okay, so now we've added a yeast, we've updated the table here, and you've got 100 billion cells. All right, so I'm actually going to say, I think this was produced in, I don't know, January. All right. So we've got slightly lower viability now, you see. So the older the yeast packet is, the lower the viability. You can change the settings there. I think we've got a, yeah, so you've got some settings here. Now we're going to have a look at, okay, so yeah, we're going to have a look at this section here. We've got a few options. All right, so this is where your pitching rate is. You already stated that, so you don't need to play around with that. You don't need to play around with your target volume or your brew date. Okay, the production date we've already set. Okay, target OGs here. That's just going to help you determine the gravity of the wort. But I think the only thing you need to think about is either whether you want to add more packs, which will change the amount of cells pitched. You can see that. I've got 2 packs here. You see, so we're just going to add 1 pack though. We've got a starter to sort out. So um, we actually need 3.7 packs of this age to sort of arrive at our desired pitching rate. And what I'm going to do though is I'm going to make a starter. So I'm just going to choose the gravity. 1030, 1040 is fine. Aeration method, if you've got a stir plate, add that. It'll increase the amount of cells produced. You can do shaking or none. I'm going to go in the middle, go for shaking, and I'm actually going to click tout starter volume here, and we've got 3.5 litre starter we need in order to achieve the desired pitching rate. Okay, you've got various other options here. You can also figure out how much DME or LME you need in order to achieve that required gravity. So if I change this, I'll actually decrease the starter volume to 1040. So I'm going to do that actually, and I'm going to save that. If you open it again, it'll all be saved as well, so it's quite handy just to remember what you've done. And you'll see the charts now match up pretty much. Just one final word here. This stir plate and calc starter volume doesn't work very well, so you're going to have to just tweak the volume yourself until I fix it. Right, so I think that is all done. Yeah, there's not much more to it. Just in terms of setting up the recipe, we've got some charts here. We're going to have a look at those in the next video as most of the measured stuff is going to show up on here. You can see there's lots of empty space. So when you put your measurements in, these will appear on the chart. So we're going to have a look at that in the next video. So yeah, thanks for listening. And yeah, as always, if you have any questions, please email beer@brewbat.com or just send a post on the forum up here. Okay, thanks very much. Bye.